Imagine living your life after 50 and feeling energized and excited about your future. Welcome to the Women in the Middle podcast, the podcast for women who are ready to figure out what they want and create the life they deserve. Here's your host and master certified life coach, Susie Rosenstein.
Hey there, today's episode is a personal one. It's all about why I finally said yes to a CPAP after years of snoring and lots of resistance. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast, Women in the Middle. I'm your host, Susie Rosenstein, your master certified coach, midlife mentor, and I am so glad to be here with you again for this week's episode, which is all about sharing my personal snoring story and why I finally said yes to a CPAP after years of resistance. This episode is for you if you snore yourself or live with and or sleep next to someone who snores. It's also for you if you want to take care of yourself better going forward at this age and stage. Or maybe you struggle with sleep, snoring, or health concerns but resist getting help. And of course, it's for you if you're curious about your own behavior, like resistance, when it's related to something you want, like better health. And if any of this sounds like you, stay tuned. Also, I've done several episodes over the years with sleep experts, and I will make sure to add those links to the show notes. Also, this is one of those episodes where I need to remind you that the information shared in this podcast is intended for your convenience, entertainment, and education, and isn't geared to your personal situation. It's not a replacement for care or advice from your own medical professional. So as always, you may have some things you want to follow up on, so please seek a suitable professional to advise you on your personal situation. Okay, now before we dive in, I wanted to share a testimonial with you about one of the smaller coaching offers that's available to you called the Happiness Breakthrough Call. Kelly Ann from Delaware shares, I didn't know what to expect from my breakthrough call with Susie. As a recently semi-retired midlife woman trying to serve others with a photo management business, I struggled with a lack of routine and overthinking paths to my goals. Susie's approach identified the negative way I perceived the word routine. Then together we mapped out my days that will allow me to reach my health, relationship, and business goals. I gained so much clarity in such a short amount of time. Thank you, Susie. I loved seeing her testimonial. It really warmed my heart because in such a short amount of time, we were able to do so much solid coaching, and she had a great result. So I want you to ask yourself, are you ready for a breakthrough? Midlife transformation coaching is the fastest way to rediscover joy and purpose after 50. When you're not where you want to be in life or business, it can feel like you're wasting valuable time, and this can drive you crazy. It can be so frustrating. I can help you. Book your 2-hour private coaching session to get clear about what's holding you back and confident about your next steps forward. There are limited spots available, but go ahead and take a look. Book your breakthrough now. Head over to www.susierosenstein.com/breakthrough-calls/. Or if that's complicated, it's not a very straightforward link. Just go to my website, susierosenstein.com, and click the Coaching and Masterclass tab, and you'll find Happiness Breakthrough Sessions listed there on the drop-down. Looking forward to coaching you to your next breakthrough. Okay, now let's dive into this week's episode, why I finally said yes to CPAP after years of snoring and resistance. If you are a regular listener of the Women in the Middle, you may have heard me mention that I am a CPAP user. If you aren't that familiar, I consulted the National Institute of Health for a definition. CPAP stands for Continuous Positive Airway Pressure, and it's basically a machine that uses mild air pressure to keep breathing airways open while you sleep. It's commonly prescribed by healthcare providers to treat sleep apnea. So I first learned about this weird-looking medical device about 25 years ago or so because of my husband's snoring. My sleep was very disrupted by his snoring. It was pretty bad. Once his sleep was under control, I began hearing more and more about my snoring over the years, from my husband and my kids, and then whenever I had to share a room with a girlfriend or a shared cottage or vacation property type of situation with friends and family, the topic of my snoring would always come up. My husband kept saying, you should really go for a sleep study. And I heard that dozens and dozens of times over the years. To which I would reply, no, I'm not doing that. It's not that much of a problem. I literally just closed it down and I wasn't curious at all. So this was going on throughout my late 30s, 40s, and 50s. And I want to ask you, do you remember when you realized that you snored? If you snore. Do you remember when you first realized it? Did it wake you up? Did somebody point it out to you? Did you get complaints? What happened for you? Somewhere along that timeline, apps started to come out to help with sleep. And I remember trying one that actually recorded your sleep noises throughout the night. So with these apps, black and white data started to appear, which was much beyond someone in your family telling you what you should do. You should get that looked at. You should go for a sleep study. You really snore a lot. It's loud. Anyway, that's how I was interpreting it at that time. And like I said, I closed it down. I didn't want to hear about it. But the black and white data started peeking through more and more. Then there was that time that my sister and I shared a hotel room. She recorded me snoring, and then the next night I recorded her snoring, and we both presented the data to each other. There was no denying it. I snored, and so did she. But I really was still denying that I should be curious enough to do something about it. Like, I agreed I snored, but I was still stuck and not curious. I hadn't yet gotten the message that there were some compelling health-related reasons to take all of this seriously. Now, I want to remind everyone that I am not a sleep expert. I'm just sharing my personal resistance journey. It really was a resistance journey to my CPAP experience. So if you snore and you're a midlife gal, you may want to be a bit more curious about how snoring may be affecting your health and check with a medical professional. Now, at this point in the story, in my journey, I wasn't really curious about my reaction to suggestions that I should get my snoring checked out. I must say, for someone like me who is super curious about decision-making and behavior change in general, it really didn't make sense. And this is why I wanted to share this story with you. Here's what I think was going on with me. First, I didn't want to be told what to do. Just because my husband was rocking his CPAP didn't mean I had to also rock a CPAP. Second, wearing CPAP is kind of weird. Have you seen it? It's on your face. There's a big hose, and I felt very self-conscious about even the idea of going down this road. Third, I didn't feel tired, so I didn't appreciate the problem at all. I'm known for being energetic. I rarely take naps, and I also don't get enough sleep. And even though I don't get enough sleep, I just wasn't tired. It seemed like a big invasive solution for a small potential problem. That's what I was looking at it as. And now, of course, I can, hindsight and everything, but I didn't get it. And having a lot of energy was part of the thing that blocked me. Fourth, it seemed like a pain in the butt when traveling. I've seen what it looked like for my husband to travel with it, carrying the little satchel-looking case, dealing with finding distilled water and power outlet while you're away. And sometimes that meant like on a sailboat, right? Or in another country or a cruise ship. It wasn't always easy to deal with the power. And it just seemed like one more thing to worry about. Fifth, I just couldn't imagine the bedroom situation with both of us wearing this octopus-looking creature of the Black Lagoon contraption. You know what I mean? And I must say, I did just now look up the creature of the Black Lagoon. I don't even know why I know that reference. And it doesn't look like the CPAP thing, but that's what was in my mind. It's kind of an elephant crossed with scuba gear, really. So when I described it, the two of us going to bed like this, I would always wave my arms around too because of the octopus image I had. It just seemed like a big giant contraption and hose, and if both of us were wearing it and dealing with it, it was just a lot. I don't know how else to say it. It just seemed like a lot. And why would I want this in my life? Well, as you may know, there are lots of reasons I may have wanted this in my life. Let me tell you when things started to change. The first thing was when we replaced our queen-size bed for a king-size bed. I had no idea that that purchase would have a potential health consequence, but it did. My friend, I never got the memo. I don't know why it took us so long, 30 years, to finally get a king-size bed, but oh my God, it was way better. So much more space. Not just my husband's CPAP situation, but also my weighted blanket situation. Do you have one of those? I love it. And when we replaced the bed, I knew it was a very good thing. We just had more space for all the things, that are going on right now at this age and stage. But the thing that really affected my mindset shift was my 60th birthday. I turned 60 in 2023. I started to sense that my thoughts about health were changing in general. I was worrying about all kinds of aches and pains and bigger health issues. I was thinking things like, it's time to get even more serious about this or that regarding my health. I need to be more disciplined about exercise. It's time to finally lose those stubborn menopausal pounds. And maybe it's time for me to take my snoring situation more seriously. So I really did notice that my thoughts started to shift just about it being more urgent to, really focus on health. So I booked my annual physical, and what do you know? My doctor asked me if I snored. I remember I looked up at her in a slow motion kind of way, or what seemed like that, and I said, "Why, yes, as a matter of fact, I do." Then she pulled out a tape measure and measured my neck circumference. I was confused about that, but okay. And then she asked if I've ever had a sleep study, to which I replied, no, but I'm open to it. There you go. I definitely found myself thinking differently about having my snoring situation assessed after I turned 60. I didn't have any resistance when she brought it up. It felt like a bit of a wake-up call, I have to say. That was new to me. So when I described things that were getting in my way of going for a sleep study for an assessment, what came up for you? What came up for you? Would you resist something like this? So it turns out that it's pretty common for women to resist wearing and using CPAP. It wasn't just me. It can be denial when you just don't think you have a problem that warrants it, or vanity and your image. It's definitely weird looking and you wear it when you're in bed. Bad combination. You might find it uncomfortable too, or think it will be uncomfortable. I didn't have that problem so much, except that I couldn't wear reading glasses with the first mask that I bought. It turns out there's lots of choices for masks. The second mask, however, is less intrusive and looks like a little pillow under my nose, so I can easily wear my reading glasses. But overall, I have no problem with sleeping with CPAP. You might think it's too inconvenient to deal with. I found that it was another thing to take into consideration, but it wasn't really that bad. For example, because it's a medical device, you carry it on the airplane with you, and at security, before you get to the airplane, you have to take it out of the case. Now, that's kind of a pain, but I always think it's kind of funny to check out the other travelers who are carrying CPAPs because they're mostly men, and it's surprising how many people are carrying this pretty easy to identify little satchel case on their shoulder. They are really easy to spot, especially when you're in the airplane and you're walking down that narrow aisle and you've got one on your shoulder. You kind of feel a kinship with other CPAP folks. At least I do. I haven't winked at anybody yet, but it feels like at least a little nod of connection would be appropriate. Now, a cool thing happened on the last cruise I was on. It's common to ask your room steward to help you with a few things, like distilled water and an extension cord. I soon realized how familiar she was with what I needed and how to help. Like in this particular room, the outlets were in a terrible place, so I needed a super long extension cord, and she was so amazing with how to run it in the room and how to make the whole thing work. So she must see this a lot. I guess in some situations, you might not like the idea that you will likely need to wear CPAP on an ongoing basis. You might feel that you need it, and you may not want to need a medical device to sleep. I understand that. And I guess the biggie is that you may not have a full appreciation for the risks associated with snoring and sleep apnea. When you realize the actual dangers, it's easy to change your tune. At least it was for me. Again, I'm not a medical expert, but according to CPAP.com, a CPAP machine may help you live longer, improve heart health, decrease your odds of having a stroke, help lower your blood pressure, reduce your risk of having diabetes, make weight loss easier, help you feel more energetic, improve cognitive performance, enhance productivity, help you sleep better, stop snoring, and improve your relationships, and more. There's more that's positive from wearing CPAP. So when you start looking into the benefits, you'll likely be as surprised as I was. But here are the two things that really made things clear to me. I went in for my sleep study, which is a weird experience too. I got all the wires hooked up and went to sleep with the other patients at the clinic. Now, we did have separate rooms, so it's not like you're all sharing a room or anything. I don't know, it wasn't really that bad. I rarely have trouble falling asleep, so even in that bizarre situation, I fell asleep and I left when they woke me up at the crack of dawn. Then, when I got my results, I was floored. I didn't just have a bit of sleep apnea, I had severe sleep apnea. I was asked to come back a second time to get fitted for a mask and sleep in it. So they test you to see if it's right, if it's a good fit. Again, weird, but not that bad. You leave at the crack of dawn, both times. At least, where I went for sleep study, that's how it worked. So I go to my car and I decide to check out my ring while I was sitting in the parking lot at 5 a.m. I was curious. I wondered if I would be able to see, how my sleep was that night. It's a ring that you wear that collects health metrics and insights, including some things related to sleep. 2 indicators I wanted to check out were average oxygen saturation and breathing regularity. And what do you know? Huge improvements from before wearing the CPAP and that night when I was wearing the mask for the first time. Like, I'd been tracking this stuff for a while and I could really see it. It was black and white. Even with my untrained non-medical eyes, I got it. There was massive improvement immediately from wearing that mask for I don't know how much sleep I got that night, 4 or 5 hours. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing was really big. I started to think about how easy it was overall to wear the weird contraption on my face and go to sleep compared to what my family member with cancer was going through. So I bet you can relate on some level. All I have to do is wear the weird thing and go to sleep, and I get the health benefits. And when I travel, all I have to do is bring the weird thing, open it up at security, schlep it around with my luggage like an extra purse. I get to go on vacation, and I get the health benefits. In my opinion, committing to CPAP is a walk in the park compared to cancer treatment and other difficult treatments that people need to endure with other health problems. CPAP can make a huge difference when treating snoring problems and sleep apnea. Most people, including me, notice better sleep quality and more sleep early in the treatment. Like right away, I was starting to see that once I got comfortable with the thing on my face, which really didn't take that long, but I could see right away that I was sleeping more and a little more soundly. My ring also tracks this. So it's not that I started to sleep 8 hours a night yet. I have not. It's very rare that I get that much sleep, but it's easier for me to get more sleep. And I also get more sleep more frequently. So we're moving up on that scale too. Like even, I don't know exactly, I should look and see exactly how it's gone up over the year and a half that I've been wearing it. But it's creeping up. I'm definitely working on it, trying to go to bed earlier, and I'm sleeping more soundly. And I have all the data to prove it. So there you have it. Lots of shenanigans going on here in my mind related to my resistance to improving my health. And ultimately, that's what it was. So I do wish that I had been open to learning more about my snoring and the health benefits sooner, like maybe a decade or more. Did I really have to wait till I was 60? I don't know. I was so close-minded about all of it. It makes you think about what else you're close-minded about and why. When it comes to your health, you probably want to take better care of yourself more and more as you age. I hear that from my clients. It comes up in coaching all the time. Self-care becomes a really big deal. There's urgency around it. Yet, if you look at the way you're living your life and see a disconnect between the reality and your priorities, there is work to be done, my friend. As a listener of this podcast, you know your thoughts have something to do with the gap between where you are and where you want to be. So you might be wondering, where am I now with this whole CPAP thing? Are you thinking about that? Well, I'm glad you asked. When I first brought it home, I decided to sleep in an empty kid's room for about a month until I was comfortable using it and sleeping well. And I think that was a good idea because I really was self-conscious about wearing the mask. Also, I woke up a few times at the beginning. I would wake up at night and I needed to fiddle with the mask. And I just didn't want to worry about waking up my husband. If I had to turn on the light, I had to really look at what I was doing at the beginning. It was easy for me to get the mask confused. Is this up? Is it down? Is it front? Is it, it was a little confusing. As I mentioned, the nose mask that I used at the beginning didn't allow for my reading glasses. So after about a year, I got a different mask that made it easier to read. When you choose your mask, you have to know if you can sleep with your mouth closed or not. Now I can, so the smaller pillow-like mask that fits under my nose was a good choice for me. Then I can wear my reading glasses. I didn't know all these things when I first got it. People do replace their masks. Some people have more than one mask. Some people have more than one CPAP. Some people have a travel CPAP. Like once you get into this world, you'll see there's lots of choices. There's specialty stores. More people than you think wear CPAP. In fact, I was visiting family and one of the husbands, somehow it came up. I think I was asking for distilled water and he was like, "Oh my gosh, I wear CPAP too. You got to see what I have. I love my new mask." Then I go to another family's house and somebody else showed me their mask. Like it's really something that can bring you together with people. It's amazing. There really is this whole subculture. Tons of choice, lots of knowledgeable people, the works. It really is interesting and it's something I knew nothing about. So now I've traveled quite a bit with it, everything from weekend trips to cruises, flights, cottages. The only issues for me are usually an extension cord and being self-conscious if I'm sharing a room. The only other thing that I purchased along the way was a peel and stick wall hook to hang the mask and the hose so it doesn't get all tangled up and end up on the floor. That's about it. That's my journey. Now, I do have a few questions for you. If you've been wondering about your own snoring or have sleep-related health concerns, I encourage you to talk to your doctor about it. Ask yourself, do you believe your health is worth prioritizing? Like this is your health. What are you thinking that's making it difficult for you to get more information about the whole CPAP thing, about the whole snoring thing? What does self-care mean to you? Does this feel like self-care? For years I was thinking, oh, I'm not getting enough sleep, but I didn't associate it at all to any of this. What are your thoughts about supporting yourself with more rest and better sleep? Do you have resistance to going to sleep earlier? I do. That's something I'm working on this year. So just think in general, what are your thoughts about supporting yourself with more rest and better sleep? How open are you to change when it comes to taking exceptional care of yourself, whatever that means for you? And finally, is there a chance that you might have regrets about not prioritizing your sleep and your health? Like if another 10 years goes by and you haven't made a change or investigated something that, you have a sense could be improved and could improve your health, what will that be like for you? Would you regret it? Being more curious about your own behavior in situations like this is everything. I surprised myself, and I think you might surprise yourself too. Honestly, when I think about how stuck I was, how closed-minded I was, how I wasn't curious about something that was getting worse, like my snoring was definitely getting worse. And I forgot to mention, over the last few years, there were at least 2 times where my snoring woke me up. And that when you fill out the form at the sleep study, they ask you all kinds of questions. And you'll see that there were some other things that were probably going on for you. And for me, that, it was getting worse. More people were complaining about it too. So why was I so closed about all of that? Well, we talked about why, but it was very interesting. And for me, I worry about all kinds of stuff. I've talked to you about that plenty of times on the podcast. And I don't know why I wasn't more worried about this. So fascinating. Anyway, remember, when it comes to CPAP, all the cool kids are doing it. And the more you get into it, if you decide, if you're, a candidate for it, if your doctor suggests it, you'll see that you're not alone. I didn't know how many women were also wearing CPAP. It didn't come up as much in my circle of friends. I didn't hear women talking about it as much. When I was traveling, I saw men carrying the little satchel CPAP thing. But now that I'm talking about it more, I do have a few friends who have shared that they've been wearing it too. And it's been it's just been interesting. I have one girlfriend who's been wearing it for more than 20 years, and it's really, really helped her. So that's what I have for you. I just think it was really important to talk about it, to share this with you. And like I said, it was something about me and my own behavior, and there was a big disconnect between how I wanted to prioritize my health and what I was doing. It was out of alignment. So when there's a big gap like that, you have to take a look. That's what I have for you today. As you know, my focus as a midlife coach is to help you waste less time spinning and feeling stuck. This is what regret-proofing your life is all about. Remember, being the queen of your brain domain is the best way to be. I can help you, and one of the ways I can help you is with a book club experience. A book club experience for the podcast, Women in the Middle. Come and chat with other midlife gals who also love the podcast about how to apply podcast goodness to your life. Join us at www.susierosenstein.com and click the podcast tab to get started. Super fun. And if you want to get unstuck and find clarity, confidence, and joy in midlife without wasting any more time feeling stuck, you have to check out the Women in the Middle Academy, where midlife transformation coaching is the fastest way to rediscover joy and purpose after 50. Now is the perfect time to join us. Apply and book your momentum call, and we'll chat and take it from there. Head over to www.talktosusie.com. For show notes and links, go to www.susierosenstein.com and click on the podcast tab and look for episode 402. You will also see a link there for my new show, The Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, which is all about the reality of running a business when you're a midlife gal. It's also on iTunes, Spotify, and all the places. Let's do this, ladies. It's time for you to put yourself first, one thought at a time. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next week.